Hey everyone, Ron Newcomb here with the Indie Coach podcast. I'm here with my filmmaking buddy, Adam Newman, and we're going to be talking shop really through entrepreneurship, leadership, making films, making movies, and trying to advance the cause of those of us that are trying to do those creative endeavors. But certainly want to take it through the lens of a coach. I just got done with about, 2.5 months of my daughter playing volleyball, and they won the championship, which was cool yesterday, which was pretty awesome. But it just reiterates that a coach is something where I want to be, not necessarily a lifelong mentor per se, though I find those extremely valuable, and I think everyone should have a mentor. What I have found in playing sports myself growing up is that a coach is there for a short period of time to really hyper focus on something, to get you over a goal line that you're trying to get and to make you better. And then they probably dip out of your life. And that's kind of what I want this podcast to be. And I'm going to continue to do it for as long as it brings value to all of us. But I wanted to continue for us to look through kind of that coach lens. So that'll be the angle of which we're talking through, but we'll try to bring as much value add. And Adam, this is just my own little 2 cents, is I really try to give, when we can, to try to speak specifically instead of generically, and because I find that is where it's really helpful. And then if I, as a listener, can apply it to my life, that's a good thing. But if we're talking books or something, if you have a book recommendation, to go ahead and give the title, or a podcast or a film to watch or anything like that, for us to try to be as specific as we can. I want actionable items at the end of this that people can act on when they listen to this or watch this and they go, man, I'm going to try that right after this. So that's hopefully the goal of this whole thing is to bring value add to every creative individual out there. So Adam, why don't you kick us off by just introducing yourself, but then also answering the obvious question of how did you get into this crazy business and world of filmmaking, and tell us a little bit about that journey too.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for having me. So I got started in filmmaking probably about 15 or 16 years ago, but I've known since I was in the 3rd grade that I wanted to tell stories in some capacity. So it kind of started just like that. When I started reading, I started writing. I was really obsessed with the video game Final Fantasy VI, and I used to watch my step uncle play it. He wouldn't let me play it, so I just had to watch him. And I got obsessed with the storytelling from that. And then over the years, it changed from novels, and then it eventually became playwriting. And then when I saw the movie Magnolia, was when I kind of went, oh, I have to continue doing whatever that is. Like, if you can make a movie like that, I have to chase that. And so it kind of started there. It was just after high school that I really started pushing towards filmmaking. And then I've been kind of studying it ever since, and just been getting more and more obsessed with it,
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. Can totally empathize or sympathize, really, because I definitely was in the same boat of how I kind of got addicted to it. I remember I was like probably 6 or 7 years old, and it was a film that made me get emotional. I cried at the end of it, and it, to me, even at that young age, I realized the power of story, and I realized that emotional impact is what I've been searching for. And stories, I was just reading a book this past week on writing, and stories is something that truly does differentiate us between like the beast of the field and human beings, is that we have cultural influence through the power of story that we pass on to one another. What do you consider yourself more of? Writer, producer, director, actor? What lens do you like to look through, and then what other roles do you fulfill, maybe just because you have to?
Sure. There's definitely a lot of that. When I introduce myself, I often just say filmmaker.
Yeah.
But really where it's the most focus is I writing, directing, and I do a lot of reluctant producing. I'm really good at the pre-production process. Over time, luckily, I don't have to do as much of the post-production process because I cannot edit. I do not have the patience for it. So that's kind of where it falls. Obviously, you've probably done the same thing where I was doing everything on set, 10 years ago, where you're, holding the mic at the same time that you're running the slate, at the same time you've locked your camera down, on a tripod, and you're trying to play DP
Yeah.
as well. But over the years, I've been kind of shedding the ones where I'm not as good at, and luckily I'm able to find people who are better at it and that is their focus. So now hopefully I'm getting to a point where it's writing and directing, and I will continue to produce my own stuff and then produce other stuff that is going on with my company, Dreamscape Productions.
You mentioned a little bit of like pre-production and you're good with those things. Does that include like scheduling budgets, like the line producing function of it? And if so, where did you learn that tool? Because that is one where that I also had to pick up, but I had to pick it up. I had to go and seek it and figure it out because again, nobody was doing it for me. But how did you learn if you do those roles?
Yeah, no, that is the big one that I do. I'm good. I am solid at least to a degree at raising money as well. I've gotten to a place where I'm at least getting better at it. I wish we could, obviously raise more, but we're getting better. When it comes to, budgeting and things like that, it's going to sound crazy. It was in my day job originally, which
Yeah.
is I used to run a golf course. And so I had to budget for a golf course, and they're all kind of similar, right? You
Right.
are figuring out your expenses versus, you're delegating responsibilities. How can I combine roles? Realizing after a project how off you were with something, and
Yeah.
understanding it for the next one. So it was kind of like
Right.
that. I've always been good with numbers. I've always been really solid at math. And so, especially mental math, and when you're good at that in elementary school, they give you rewards, and I like that. So I was really solid with that. So yeah, I've been decent at that. Scheduling, I'm pretty good at. The unfortunate thing is I do tend, especially because I direct, and I'm running a lot of the things on set, I unfortunately do sometimes over rely on my ability to improv, which is not positive. We have to get better at that. So I will work in, oh, this is our budget, and I'm pretty sure we can make this work, and we can make this schedule work. And then when we get to the day on set, I'm always prepared to pivot and move things around if need be. I've unfortunately gotten very good at it. It does not make things easy on everybody else. So trying to find that healthy balance.
Yeah, no, I think that's definite one. And yet I've never been on a film where it's gone 100% according to plan. Do you like to storyboard everything out? Do you use previs to get the things out there, or are you a little bit more organic? Do you have a combination? How do you work kind of the pre-planning?
Sure. I don't do a storyboard because I'm the worst drawer you've ever seen. I can't even get stick figures in the right position. So I have a hard time with that. I do use an app every now and then for action-based sequences in order to describe it to my DP or my editor. We had a really intricate thing that involved a fire gag in our most recent movie. So they did not understand when I wrote it out in a shot list form. And so I will use, I think it's called Storyboard Me, that app. And so I will do that, just put figures around. I try to shot list the entire thing. Now I'm also not carrying the shot list with me on the days of set. I think most of the time it's just because I write it for the sake of my sanity. So I know know what I need. Luckily I work with a great director of photography, Mike McGillnick, and he really likes the organic way of doing it. So we kind of mix and match
Yeah.
depending on the sequence. So we'll get there on the day of, and I think that's when we're gelling the best, is when we get there on the day of. We had a plan. Now we're in the space. Let's combine that plan with a little bit of the improv, and then we can kind of work to find something unique and interesting. And because we both understand each other's sensibilities, I think it typically works for the best.
Yeah, I'm again reading a book about writing,
Mm.
and they talk about plotting and pantsers. And what pantsers are is flying by the seat of your pants. Yeah, that is where those of us that don't outline or plot each point, you let it be a little bit more organic and and we all know films that have done this to very successful and degree levels, is you let the actors kind of really go off script and dictate a lot of it. Robin Williams, you'd be foolish not to let that dude go off script. Vince Vaughn goes off script, so there's a lot of, if you have the right people to do that. And I think the sweet spot is a combination of the both. It's having that list if you need it to go back to, and yet understand and recognize the freedom. If you're going to get gold, you don't want to prevent the actor from, or your DP for that matter, from getting that gold. You want the gold. You talk about raising funds, which of course is, to me, one of the biggest things. Do you have a price point, a budget range that you're working in now, and a budget range where you would like to get to that you find is a sweet spot for indies?
So we keep raising the budget, which is good. Yeah, I can be forthright with this. So the movie that we have that's currently on its distribution path, that we shot that for about 60,000, which we wish we had more, of course. And now we're getting to a point where we're still staying under the ULB, but our most recent project's probably about 200 to 250. I don't believe there's such thing as a sweet spot. I would like to listen, I got a Star Wars script, so I'm ready. But I also want to make indie stuff at $1 million budget. And the other day I was talking about, hey, let's go back to our roots. Let's make a $5,000 movie. I can fund that right now, and we can go and shoot something in the woods. I'm fine with that. So I think that it doesn't matter. And I also like putting limitations on myself sometimes, and money is always one of the limitations. I tend to believe that it breeds creativity. When you back yourself into a corner, you got to find a way to punch out, and so you'll typically come up with the best solution possible in that moment. And if you don't, it's because you haven't practiced it enough, and so you need to do it anyway. So I don't know if there's a budget level. My guess is no matter what happens, whatever our budget ends up being, I'm always going to think we need more. Whether it's, at the $60,000 level, and then the 250, I still feel like, boy, I wish we had another 50 or 100, because it would have made this movie a lot different. So, no, I think it's just finding a balance when it comes to it, and starting to realize what costs a lot of money, what goes right back to the budgeting, things that you don't realize do cost a lot of money. And, I still think I can make a good story with, nothing. That's the expectation. You just have to change up what you're going to tell,
Yeah, exactly. You got to work within the means. I like to ask this question, but you may have just answered it. So if you want to elaborate, great. But I think there was a lot of meat that you just gave right there about this question. So I have this phrase: money is not a problem; it is the problem for us indies. It's the problem. Yeah. And I generally ask, how does one, as an independent creative, overcome that? And you've talked about that a little bit, but anything specifically related to like money? And we all know that that's the thing that people either knowingly let that stop them, or maybe even unknowingly they use it at least as a crutch or an excuse of why they're not filming. But how does a creative overcome the money problem?
I mean, it's a great question. I think if we had a solid answer, more people would probably make movies. I'm gonna be honest, and I think it comes from ignorance. I didn't go to film school or anything like that. I watched so many movies growing up. I had no understanding of what they cost. I grew up, I was born in the 80s. I was born in 1987. And so the internet was not a readily available way to find information. And so I had no idea what these things cost. So going in, I was like, oh yeah, all of these should cost only a few $100s or a few $1,000s. Yeah, some of them look a little bit better. Really, what I think, and it sounds like such a pedestal thing, especially because we're now making movies at a 200, plus $100,000 mark. You can't let it limit you at all. I just think, like, any person that goes, oh, I just can't get the money for it, and then I go like, then it might not be for you. Like, this might not be your industry. Yeah, you can't tell your Star Wars movie for $200,000, but if you do for $2,000, you can probably tell something that's playing around with the same themes, which is ultimately what you're probably trying to say. You don't want to talk about a lightsaber. You want to talk about an emotional thing. You just brought it up. The thing that turns you on to movies was something emotional. You can connect with that at a $2,000 budget level, by begging your friends and offering up your services down the line, doing it for favors. This is how we survived for a long time. So it sounds arrogant or it sounds ignorant, but I just kind of think you can't ever let it be a thing, you know. And I have a script I wrote 10 years ago, and I would love to film one day. It's a movie that's going to cost us $10 million. So I just continue to polish it every couple of years, check back, see what I'm still feeling. I've changed. I've grown up. I want to talk about different things now. Put it off to the side one day, and just write everything else. Write something else. Write something with two people sitting in a room. There's so many. If you've ever seen the Linklater movie Tape, that movie rules. It's so good, you know. So there's so many ways you can tell the story, and I feel like money is just another one of those excuses. I hate people that sit around and go like, oh, if I could only get my stuff, get my act together, and I could go and make a great film. Just go make it right now. I'll watch it. If you want to show it to me, I'll certainly watch it. So I don't think that there is a it's a tough one, but I don't think that there is an excuse. The technology is the best it's ever been. It's the
Yeah.
easiest time ever to get your movie distributed, to get your movie in front of people. It takes a lot of grinding. It sucks, but if you love it, just go do it, you know?
Yeah. Again, I keep going back to this book I've been reading, and I read a series of them. And to be specific, it's a guy named Chris Fox, and he has a website, chrisfoxwrites.com. And he has a group of about 5, 6 books on writing. And one of the books is called Writing to Market. So this guy, Chris Fox, wants to write an epic fantasy, but what the market is yielding right now is sci-fi military.
Mm-hmm.
And he likes sci-fi, he loves it even, but fantasy is where his heart is. But that's a saturated market. It's a much bigger books. And so he figured out what was an underserved market that had a lot of market traction and wrote for that and put away his favorite fantasy book that he's been wanting to write. And one day he'll write that. But right now he's writing what he can, what's sellable as an indie, what the market will yield. I think those are all really good questions to ask yourself. And maybe are not the creative ones, but when you find the business, what the market will yield and what your love and passion is, where they intersect, where that Venn diagram happens, that's where you should execute. And I agree. You shouldn't I totally get the money problem. It is the problem.
It's a thing.
But it shouldn't be the factor that keeps you from creating. For all the reasons you just said it, I won't redo. I mean, Citizen Kane, we have a camera on our cell phone 10 times better than the camera that was used on Citizen Kane that everybody can utilize, and so the excuses start to fall apart. If nobody knows anything, which is an old Hollywood saying, nobody knows anything, what does a project have to do to get someone excited? And then how do you gauge a story in your mind of like, all right, this is the one I'm going to green light within my own realm? What does it take to kind of get a project greenlit in your mind?
Okay, so from the basic aspect, it has to be something where I can clearly see the beginning and the end, and they're connected with one another, whether it be the arc of one character or the arc of many characters. I don't think about theme going into a script, because I believe you will come at it with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. I think you subconsciously know what you want to talk about. However, if I believe a character starts in one place and ends in another place, and I have a good opening image and a last image, I start to go, okay, this is maybe an idea that's potentially worth a damn. And then what happens is I have to corkboard it out. I corkboard out every one of my scripts, and it has to, I don't have to have every scene exactly made out, because again, that kind of blend where I like to be able to write a scene on the fly that feels like it's necessary in the heat of things. But I need the beats. I need all of the beats there. And if the beats feel good and I feel like, oh, this is a movie I would like to watch, and it's about something that I care about. And especially after the 5th, 6th draft, which I typically is probably around the time I do allow it to be seen, if it starts to be pretty clear what I'm trying to talk about and what the themes are, and then I push the story in that direction, that's kind of when I go, all right, this is probably something that we should really investigate and see if it's something that we're going to make. Of course, you have to ask the budget question when it comes to that. I do keep it in mind as well, going like, oh, is this something that I can realistically do at the budget level we're currently at? or is it something that is down the road? And if that is the case, I try still to continue writing it because it's probably what I care about at that moment. How an audience is going to react, it's such a difficult one. I still believe it really all you're trying to film is a feeling medium. It's I don't believe it's a thinker's medium. There's great movies that make you think, but these are the Roger Ebert quote, these are empathy machines. This is why they exist.
Totally
And
agree. Yep.
yeah, and so all if I am feeling if the main our most recent movie is called Round the Decay, and our lead character's name's Kenzie, and what she's going through, as long as that means something to me, it's going to connect with somebody else. I'm going through something that you've gone through or something that somebody else has gone through, and it might not be your cup of tea when you watch it and you go, oh no, didn't work for me. That's okay. But there's somebody that is going to connect with it. You hope that they get to see it. You hope that a lot of people get to see it and a lot of people get to connect with it. But it has to just be something that I feel, oh man, it sounds corny, but like I go, oh, I pay money to see that in the theater, and then if I came out feeling the way I did when I wrote it, then I probably got a story that somebody else is going to care about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, we're trying to elicit emotion. That's the job of a story. You're trying to elicit emotion. You're trying to move people into action, spur them into action due to an emotional impact. Does star power still matter in 2024?
That's a great question. In terms of getting your movie seen, yes. Oh, absolutely it does. Even me, when I put on a movie, when I'm flipping through Tubi, if I see something that has a person, if it's got John Hawkes in it, I'll go, oh, I love John Hawkes. I got to watch him. I think it does matter, of course, just because it helps you get eyes on the project, and especially now with social media and things like that. Yeah, of course it does have value. Now, what is the value is the question, and these are questions that we do ask. We had an actor, I won't say their name, but they're relatively famous, and we made an offer to them. I offered them, I'll say the number. I offered them $10,000 for a day or something along those lines, and their agent actually got in touch with me, and which is very rare. And they came back and said, "Listen, the offer's way too low. I'm just gonna." And I said, "Can you please just tell me how close I am?" And he goes, "It's $100,000 for the day." And I said, "Okay." Like I've learned, and you have to sit there and you have to assess: is that person worth $100,000? Are they going to bring $100,000 to your movie? The answer is probably no in this case, and so you do have to weigh that. However, having a recognizable face does something. Also, I think though, ultimately, it's about getting the right actor for the right role, and I love to mix and match some of those things. We have some names now that are coming onto our projects, and at the same time, we get to work with the cast that we've worked with for 10 years. We get to mix them together, and it goes, okay, hopefully one of our cast will pop because they're way better than everybody seems to think that they are. And then we also have that name that can get us watching. It's probably dying to a degree, because the landscape of cinema is so weird right now. I don't know where it's going. It looks like theaters are dying and dying. We just had the worst weekend in history for Memorial Day when it came to Furiosa and Garfield. I don't know what it means. I haven't really digested it. There is still some value, but there are genres where it means less too, like horror. Horror will sell with lesser knowns and things like that. It's, again, you're weighing it out when it comes to how you're going to get people to see it. And I'm writing a drama right now, and it's a drama. It's a drama, and you think, okay, I do need a name for this to grab somebody because it's a drama, and it's tough to just bring people straightforward to your project when it's actors they haven't seen, even if those actors are really good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I wish star power was not important. I still think it's extremely important because you're trying to get through the noise. No, the CEO of Netflix, I think it was CEO, said he doesn't fear Warner Brothers or HBO. He fears Xbox and he fears Fortnite, because there's so many. I stopped calling myself filmmaker and started calling myself storyteller because frankly, there's so many mediums I would tell stories in. I just want to tell stories because of that emotional impact. And there's so many things that you're competing with that what star power does is help you break through the noise. Because like you said, if your film doesn't reach the intended person it was meant for, that would be a travesty. You want it to impact, however small that group is, and if they don't know about it, you know, and I think that was kind of the heart of what you were saying is that, man,
Mhm.
you hope that they see it, is that that star power does help you break through the noise, if anything. And like you, I also think the trajectory is going down. They're less maybe important as they were, but they definitely are still a thing because the noise has gotten so loud
Oh,
that, you know,
absolutely.
if I had Tom Cruise in it, you're going to at least look at it. You're going to at least be like,
I'll
oh,
know I'll know it exists,
you'll know it exists.
which is
Yeah,
huge. Yeah.
which is huge. Which
Yep.
is, and I hate that is the case, and I do think it's getting less, but you know, we'll see where it goes.
Sure.
Do the moment you start to be an activator and you do a movie, I have found that people start to find you and bring you projects. Do you have people that bring you projects? And if so, do you consider those? What approach do you kind of take if someone comes to you and says, people are well-meaning. They don't really know what they're asking sometimes, how big of an ask they are by saying, hey, can you read my script? You know, like they think it's a 5-minute thing. And, you know, just so the audience knows, a script generally takes you as long as it takes to watch a movie. So if
Mm.
a script is 90 pages, that's 1 minute of screen time, roughly. That's going to take you about an hour and a half to read the script. And so people, when they ask you, hey, can you just do a quick read on this? They don't really know the
Right.
commitment that someone is going to sit down. And then if they take notes, you might as well double that time. That's a 3-hour commitment at minimum to
Mm.
try to do that. So are people started to come to you, and how do you help others navigate those waters?
Certainly there's a variety of things that we get. With Dreamscape Productions becoming a little bit bigger, and we're kind of a three-man team, and we have a couple part-time workers, and we're trying to build up. We're starting to get people to send us scripts, and they want us to obviously look at them and potentially make them. At this point, we have no interest. We're not big enough. And
Yeah.
listen, I got plenty of stories. I got 10
Right.
scripts right now that I'm ready to make. So, and then I have, you know, my editor for this movie. We're filming his movie next, and I'm going to produce it, and he's going to direct, and I'll probably AD it. We don't have the time for those scripts necessarily. Then there's the two other processes. One is somebody will say, "Hey, can you read my script?" And there's somebody that I know. If I know them, 1,000%, I will always read the script. It takes me longer to read it than like the 90 minutes for 90 pages because I write notes the entire time.
There you
So
go.
and you know, and also I always have a question I do ask them. I say, do you want me to tell you if it's good, or do you want me to give you notes? And if they want me to tell them it's good, I probably won't read it because it doesn't really, that's not what I'm interested in. If you want to know what I think about it, and of course, notes, throw them out, you know, if you don't believe what I'm saying. But I will always come at it in a constructive way. Especially if it's like a short script, somebody, young filmmakers that are coming up and go, hey, will you take a look at this thing? Absolutely. It's a 10-page script. Of course it is. And I will write 20 pages of notes back if you're comfortable taking that. Hell yeah, I love it. I love doing stuff like that. And then we do have the other people, which are my least favorite people, though it is fun at times. They're the pitchers. They're like, hey, I got this idea. And it's like, oh, if we can just kind of talk shop if you want to talk shop and have a good time. I love just being like, what if blah meets
Yeah,
blah? Those
sure.
are fun, but there are some people that kind of are like, here's my pitch. Do you want to write this script? And it's like, I've
Right.
never wanted to do anything less in my life. No, I don't have, like, if you write the script right now from what you just told me, if you
Right.
give me a solid script, sure, I will read it for you, but I'm
Right.
not going to make that project. We're nowhere near that level. And people do kind of act like writing a script is easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not. It's, you know, it's the same thing as, I brought this up the other day. Hey, do you like basketball? And you might. And then I'd say, all right, let's just throw you in the NBA and
Yeah.
see how you fare. And it's like, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years. And so, you know, and doing it poorly, but getting better all the time and practicing and studying, it's difficult. And so if you write it though, and I do know you, if you sit down and do the time, yes, I will give you my time for something like that. But it's typically got to be somebody that's within our, you know, our
Yeah. Circle.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. I love the honesty. So I actually have a master's in counseling,
Mm.
and I love the reason only reason I bring that up is because I love the honest truth of, do you want notes or do you just want me to tell you it's good?
Mm.
Because I have found that most people want me to tell you it's good. And even
Yeah,
including myself,
of
I
course.
will tell people
Hmm.
Like if it's my loved ones, because I mean, no offense to them, but they haven't, to your point, I've been doing this now 25 years and I watch a book or I read a book a week probably on
Hmm.
this. I watch ad nauseum videos, when I'm working out, I'll put a video on
Sure.
daily. And I know what they're not going to be able to bring me. So I want to ensure that I'm getting the feedback that I want. And sometimes it's not that it's an ego boost, but it is kind of a psychological, like, did you just like the story or not? Don't give me notes on craft or character
Mhm.
development or, is it good? And sometimes I just want people to say yes. Here's another example. Um, this is the honest God's truth too, is that the way this is. And when you get a filmmaker, because we've done so good in our culture with filmmaking, everybody thinks they can do it, much like how they all think it's screenwriting is easy. If I have a film project that I am done, it's in the can, the distributor has it, it's up on Amazon. I've had films on Netflix and they've watched it and they send me an email with edit notes.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm on my third
Yes.
film. You're stuck, you're giving me edit notes. That's not, just tell me it was good. And because if you don't like it, frankly, I don't want to hear that. Just if you liked it, send me an email. If you don't like it, keep it for the next person. And I sure as heck don't want your editing notes or character development notes or, the movie is out there. So well intended, but I did like that kind of honesty element.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting too, because I've had situations like that too, and it's like, thank you for telling me the things you didn't think that worked, but the movie's done.
The
Like
movie's
there's,
done. It's in the
yeah,
can. I'm not going back.
right. But I do appreciate when somebody looks at it and then I'll go, how do you like it? And if they say, it's good, whatever, that's great. But then I'll go, sometimes I'll say, is there anything that didn't work for you?
Yeah, that's a
And
good one.
and they'll say something like, I had somebody say, like, I didn't care about this character's death. And I went, oh, that's really interesting.
Mm,
So I sit there and I go, first of all, is that I've been hearing from everybody,
yeah,
if you start to hear it from everybody, it's probably true. One of our movies, everybody says, oh, it's a little bit too long. If everybody says it, it's right. But if someone says that about that character and, okay, now I'm starting to hear that, no, I get to start taking my script and going, okay, where did I fail? Where is the spot? And it's like, I probably have a problem in the first act. So
yeah.
what did I drop the ball on? Something like that. How do I improve? That's more what I care about.
There you go.
But what you said about the edit notes, yeah, it's like, dude, if you're going individual scene by scene, the movie's done. Like
Yeah,
I put it out there. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for taking the
yeah.
time to
Well
watch it.
intended. I know. Very
Yeah,
sweet of them to do that. But yeah, and again, it's from like the oddest person that they've never shown any like in filmmaking, much and they give you a whole rundown of how they would have edited it. And again, I get the sentiment behind it. If
Mm,
a film fights you every step of the way, which is a Ronism, that's one of my sayings.
okay.
What are some of the hurdles you've had to overcome while filmmaking?
What do you mean by fights you?
So here's my thing that a film, I almost feel like the story wants to live, but the film will fight you to see if you're worthy to pull it into existence. It's your job as the producer to birth it into existence, but it will resist you. And that is all the things that you think of. It could be the money problem. It could be you're in the middle of production and your actor gets COVID and a little film like that could wipe out a film. And is
Mm,
that going to wipe you out or are you going to overcome that? You lose an actor because they got hired on another project. These are all things that have actually happened to me, by the way.
sure.
I'm getting ready to I'm getting ready to roll cameras like in 2 days and the actor gets hired off for another project. So a film it's been my sense that a film tends to fight you the whole process. And it's our job as filmmakers, true storytellers, because like you said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Most people give up because it's just too much. It's too hard to pull it into existence. But those with the tenacity to do it, I find make good storytellers.
Mm. No, that's fair. I probably bring in a bunch of different experiences from a bunch of different things. First of all, I already mentioned that I used to run a golf course, and so that is just constant improvisation in terms you have a set plan, it does not go your way. Like you just said, someone gets COVID or someone gets sick or someone's parent passes away or whatever it may be. You have to be able to constantly be moving. And no matter what happens, that needs to exist. It needs to continue humming along or I'm going to get fired. So
Yeah.
whatever you have to do in order to get that taken care of, you get it taken care of. I just kind of have taken that in for everything. I'm also uh, I used to be especially a bit of an athlete. And it's so interesting that you brought up coaching because I used to coach as well. And it's so interesting how much of that is tied together. Because I used to coach a lot of ultimate frisbee and you know, it's obviously working with it's a game plan that you set and you're working with these different personalities and you're trying to make these personalities work. And then when all of a sudden you're in the game, some of those things go out the window and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you still have to know who these people are and how to interact and whatnot. I've just got like it is no matter what happens, it's going to exist. And it's because I've just gotten to this point where I know how to improv to a certain level. And I'm always willing, you got to be liquid here. You know, you just got to like wherever you see the crack, just go right into there. I've had the same situation. You know, we had we were supposed to shoot a different movie and then we got shut down because we couldn't meet the SAG guidelines for COVID. And it was the day before the shoot. So we
Oh,
lost our
gosh.
SAG actors and we don't have, so the movie's dead. And we're sitting there going, we have a location. We have a bunch of actors who have flights out here. What do? We pivoted and we wrote a new movie in the weekend, a
Wow.
feature.
Holy cow.
Yeah, you know, I wrote backwards. My co-writer wrote forwards. We met somewhere in the middle. We had 40 or 60 pages when we started day one. We wrote the rest of it while we were shooting. Something needs to exist, so make it exist. And then once you look at the turd that it is after the assembly edit, you I feel the
Of
same thing I do. It is always you're like
course.
it's the worst movie
Oh
ever
yeah.
made.
You want to quit and think you're horrible? Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you just start polishing the turd. And once you've started to polish that, all of a sudden you start going, all right, what do we need to do to make this better? Let's make this better. And then eventually, the moment you have it out there and it's premiered and you've done your little push and all that type of stuff, I can't remember the exact quote, um, but it's about once you have a painting, it's there and you put it on the wall and that's it. You just move on and you make another one and you figure out what you did wrong in that last one and how you have to be able to be liquid again this next time. And also when you're that liquid, make sure that you're looking for all the other cracks that might be an avenue to a more successful path. And not only that, you have to make the movie. You also have to make sure that we believe this at Dreamscape, and this is why people keep coming back, is you also have to make people proud of the thing that they're doing, and you have to inspire them by being passionate about the thing. I was always obsessed with the story of Julius Caesar when he would he would give these big speeches, rousing speeches before a battle, and then he would go out first in line. And so I started thinking like that's like if everybody just keeps seeing that I'm the first person awake, I'm probably going to be okay and they'll start to follow me. And then that's what it is. When you have a team that cares about what you're doing and they care about you and they care about the project, anytime that you're like, I don't know where I'm going, which I'm sure you felt the same
Oh
thing on
yeah.
set, I am clueless, they'll guide you. They'll take your hand and say, hey, I got your back for this moment. And they'll carry you to the next one so that you can be successful somewhere else, you know?
Yeah, no, it's collective, collaborative. And I totally agree with being, like first up. There's a lot of people that come out on set, but the people that stick with me is when it's 5 a.m., I look to my left and to my right, and those are the people
Yep.
that generally come along with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you see creatives blowing it, and how do you see Hollywood blowing it? So, talk first about through the creative lens, and then let's just Monday morning quarterback Hollywood for a little bit.
Sure.
And where do we see them blowing it?
Yeah, so creatives and most of what we're talking about probably is somewhere in, you know, our level of filmmaking when it
Yeah,
comes.
for sure.
One is that they're lacking confidence, which you have to go in. You can go into this and see, I'm insecure. You know, I'm incredibly insecure. When I started this, I wanted everybody to tell me everything I ever did was genius. Of course. Um, if you start to get through that, you start to understand you're not making The Godfather. You're just making something that's supposed to reach out to somebody. Um, I think a lot of people blow it. One, they get obsessed with their vision. It's one of those things, and they go like, "No, what I am doing is right." I'm sorry. Everybody else has a story to tell too. All the actors on set are storytellers.
That's
Your
right.
entire crew are storytellers,
Right.
and I am not as good at so many things as they are, so they can really it's amazing when my production designer gets done with something and you go, that is 1,000 times better than I ever imagined it would be. And so
Yeah.
like he is a storyteller himself. I need to make sure that I trust him when I give him this project. Trust the people, and of course these people have to show you that they can be trusted. I think so many people, especially young filmmakers, get locked in. This is my vision. This is how it's supposed to be told, and that rubs people the wrong way. You start to look like you're an egomaniac, and because you probably, I had the same thing, the auteur theory, which is like that a film is the sole responsibility of a director, and that all of the credit and also all the blame can go on them. I just think that's hogwash. I think it's nonsense. And so I think a lot of people have that. And then I also think that there's the complete opposite side, which is they lack so much confidence that just won't do it. If you want to make a story, go tell your story. It's going to suck. You have to suck for 10 years. It's the rule. Sorry. You
Right.
just have to suck. You're not going to think it sucks. That first time you're going to think, I just made a great thing. And then you're going to watch the assembly. You're going to go, it's terrible. And then you're going to get it polished and you're going to go, oh, this is okay. I'm better. And if you keep saying like, what do you got next? Then you'll start to ascend as a filmmaker. And I think that a lot of people just give up at that spot too. I made something bad. Yeah, nobody watched it. Who cares? Go make something else that's bad too, and then
Right.
figure it out. Just keep making bad stuff. That's what it is. Nobody thinks about all the shots that LeBron James missed at practice. They know what they just see what they see on game day. So that's where I think that creatives kind of are failing. It's those two separate ways. And then when it comes to Hollywood failing, it sounds probably cliche. The people that are running studios right now are money people, and they don't care about movies as much. They're trying to figure out what's going to be. I mean, I don't want to get into a rant about capitalism, but this is what happens oftentimes in structures where money can be made. Entities will come in that just care about money, and they want to make money off of the thing. So they think, let's use IP. Let's stick with the formula that is working for us. And it worked. It did. Listen, there's a lot of good Marvel movies, but it did some damage to a degree too. And then eventually audiences now have rebelled and they're sick of it.
Yeah.
They want something new. They want something fresh. And Hollywood's current pivots probably aren't necessarily in that direction. They think, oh, maybe we should just involve AI to make things cheaper. You're not doing the right thing. You should be investigating the stories that you are telling. And yeah, I think that's probably where it is. I still think there's good stuff being made in Hollywood, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, whether it be larger independent films or big budget movies, there's still Guardians 3 was great. I love that movie. So like there's a lot that is going well, but I think there became this obsession with how do we make a buck, where it seemed like, at least for a moment, there were people going like, hey, let's make mid-budget movies and let's tell interesting stories. And sometimes we're gonna fall on our ass here, and that's okay because it's only $10 million. When these movies are $250 million, they cannot fail. And if they do fail, you're losing so many jobs and losing so much money. So I
Yeah.
hope that they bring back that mid-budget movie at some point and they start to pivot and start to understand that audiences do want something fresh. And the freshest stories right now are coming from independent movies. So that's probably where I think it's the biggest drop. I don't know if it will change because I don't really know how it works at
Sure.
big studios and things like that. But that's probably what I see most.
Yeah, no, I was trying to remember as you were talking, there was a filmmaker, I think it was an actor, yeah, definitely an actor, who was talking about, let's do more of the $10 million range.
Mhm.
Like how many $10 million movies, how many stories at $10 million could we tell at your $200 million budget? And again, to be clear, I am not anti-Hollywood. I think Hollywood, the system, brought in huge success as it relates to story and different things. But I too am seeing what you're seeing, and there's definitely not something that's right. It's more driven by data points than it is story and things of that. But to your point though, and what I like is that is where independents can step up and step into, is that there's a gap there and we can tell those stories. How does one find longevity in this industry, or how does one find contentment? And I'll tell you where this question kind of stemmed from. For the longest time, so I have a day job too, and for 6 years I was able to do filmmaking full time, but that I'm not in one of those seasons. And I project manage, which is exactly a producer. I mean, it's the same skill sets.
Yep.
Um, and I found that I began to think I was a failure because I wasn't working full time in filmmaking, and I was not. My self worth and stuff started to drop. My value because I wasn't living my calling, my dream, if you will, my corner of the American dream, and I began to look at it differently. And finding longevity and contentment in this industry is something that I've tried to pursue, that I want to help others see, because I think so many people consider themselves a failure in not doing it full time vocationally. What are your thoughts about longevity and contentment?
It's a really good question because I felt the same thing. And, I stopped making movies probably for a window of time, probably about 5 or 6 years, where I kind of ended up, I said, it's basically been my second life. It was actually a book that did it for me. It was Lloyd Kaufman's what is it? Make your own damn movie? Make your
Yeah,
own.
make your own damn movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I was reading it on a beach and it re-inspired me. And it kind of has changed how I felt about it because for so long I was obsessed with my own ego and I was obsessed with people telling me I was great at things. When it came to sports, sports were easy. And then all of a sudden, when you step up a league, you start to realize, oh my God, there's other people that are great at this. And it was the same thing with writing. It always came easy to me. And then all of a sudden I stepped up and there's another league, there's another one. I think that what I was able to do, I still am not at the place I want to be. I don't think I ever will be, because then I'd stop making movies. There's so many stories I want to tell, and I want to tell them on all different levels. How I've been able, because I'm lucky enough now where most of my job is making films, which is great. I do have little pieces that are other things that are tied to the same company, but either way, I've gotten to this place. I don't feel, I mean, I'm very excited about it and I'm doing well financially, but I don't feel like I'm done. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's another level. And I still, I think about, Trent Reznor was the big one who's the inspiration for the movie Soul, the Pixar movie, which is incredible. And he finally, Trent Reznor, singer of Nine Inch Nails, he
Yeah.
said that he kept thinking, when I get to play the stadium, I'm going to be a real artist. And then he played the stadium and then he went home and he goes, why don't I feel any different? And it's because that's not the thing that's gonna fill you. It's not, and you have to accept that that's the case. I got to a point where, and I was talking with my friends, I'm lucky that I have 3 producers. Some of them put in money, some of them are just always there for me, some of them just read my scripts constantly. They're always there as a support system. We said, as long as we can continue, if there comes a time where this all falls apart, if we still want to make movies on the weekends with our friends, then let's be happy with that because we can always do that. We can go back home,
Right.
shoot it for free. We can have a good time. Maybe nobody sees it. But if we are loving that, we're loving the filming, the process, all that type of stuff, the grind that sucks, the hours that suck, then that's okay. And if you can become okay with that, you can kind of go, you know what? I'm not going to make it. Whatever I have defined as making it, I'm not going to do it. And then you still go, well, I still got to tell a story. Then you're going to be fine. I think you're
Right.
going to be okay. It's about coming to that point and stop thinking that you're the next thing. I hate the people that think they're Tarantino. You're not. I'm sorry, you are not. And Tarantino has accepted his luck too. So, luck
Yeah.
is a part of this thing, but
Definitely.
there are so many talented people.
Right.
If you keep caring, if you really care, just keep telling stories. And if you can't find joy in that, just the ability to tell the story and you're not going the places that you want, then it's probably not your path, and maybe you
I
should be
agree.
something else.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of a hard reality look of self-analysis too, is that here's because I got into this whole thing through acting,
Mm,
and I had an acting friend of mine, and they basically said, if you're not getting cast and stuff, maybe that is the industry telling you something. And
mm,
man, that hit me right in the face.
mm,
I was getting cast in marginal small stuff,
sure.
but as an actor, and that and definitely luck is a factor there, but still, it's kind of like, why do the great quarterbacks, how are they able to win when all the football teams are almost equal in almost all things, and yet every year there's breakout teams and teams that are horrible, and if you look at them statistically, they're almost equal.
Oh, yeah.
How does that happen? And it's because certain quarterbacks just find a way to win.
Hmm.
And certain actors just find a way to win. They find a way to get cast. And I don't know what that is,
Sure.
but we all should be taking a hard look at ourselves of what that level of make it is and
Mm.
find contentment in the process. And you're right, you need to self-analyze,
Mm.
is this still for me? And if it's
Mhm.
not, if there's an inkling, and I mean this with all
Yeah.
sincerity, get out of the madness.
Yep.
You don't need to do this. No one's forcing you.
Yep.
Get out of the madness. But if the bug has bitten you and you're a vampire like me and Adam, then you're gonna make movies no matter what. And you better find contentment in the process, because it's in the making of the sausage that we must find contentment.
Yeah.
What are you currently working on? What, maybe talk about a few of your past projects, but really specifically about what has Adam and team done? Tell me about your company.
Sure.
Give me the whole kind of background of your production company and the projects that you kind of have, and even where people, what's the best place for people to see those, support you as a filmmaker? What are some areas we could help you?
Oh, sure. Well, thank you so much for asking. So Dreamscape Productions is my newer production company that I have with Sean Ward and Topher Hansen. It kind of was birthed back in November off of my old production company, which is But It Did Happen Productions. Our first movie that we've done as a team there is called Everwinter Night. It is now on Tubi and Amazon Prime and a bunch of other streamers. Just go to justwatch.com, the greatest website of all time, type the name of the movie in, and it will tell you exactly where it's playing. And please go watch it, because these things, like, in order to make more of these things, we need to make our money back to a degree. It's an important part. I'm wearing the hat right now.
Awesome.
The movie we just finished, we're probably about a month ago, we finished principal photography for our next horror movie, Round the Decay. We will have an assembly edit in the next 2 weeks. I have 105 minutes that I'm waiting on to watch tonight.
Wow.
Done, which is great. I have not
Awesome.
edited it. Yeah, my editor is a machine. He's cruising through it right now. We're setting up pickups to finish up. We will be premiering in October, and then we will have a theatrical run in January. So we're very excited about that. We can't share tons of details yet and exactly what theaters, because we're still working out all of those final details. But
Sure.
yeah, it's that's Everwinter Night's a horror comedy with a lot of heart. Around the Decay is more of a straight horror, again with a bit of heart. It's very character driven. From there, we've got a bunch of projects in pre-production right now. It looks like our next movie is probably going to be this kind of it's a horror movie, but it's in the vein of like an Ernest movie. Like Ernest Stupid is Topher Hansen's favorite movie, and so it's kind of a silly movie that's kind of in that vein. It's called Dark Roast, so we're kind of aiming to do that next. We're not exactly sure what's going on yet, but I'm drawing up the budget for it and things like that. Then we have a comedy western that's coming up as well called Sticks and Bones. I've been writing a tennis drama for like 7 years that I'm always have off to the side. That's called Shale. We've got a bunch of different projects that are coming up that we're always trying to prepare for and figure out which ones we're going to do next. Our goal is to be making 2 movies a year at Dreamscape. It's a lot to ask. And I'm always willing to go back to the well and shoot something for $5,000 out in the woods with my friends. And the way that you can follow us is, oh God, here we go. We've got the Facebook page, Dreamscape Productions, LLC. We're the same thing on Instagram. Also, all of the movies, Everwinter Night, Round the Decay. Those are both on Instagram, both on Facebook. Following us is big. We're not insane posters. We're just trying to promote our projects. We're also trying to promote independent filmmakers. We know how difficult this is right now, and wading through what's going on with distribution. And let's face it, right now, there's a lot of scammy stuff going on. There's a lot of predatory distributors, and we're trying to build a community of filmmakers that wants to just talk about what's going on and help each other out, trying to figure out, how do we get into theaters? How do we start getting ourselves out there so that we can make a little bit of money off of these things rather than these predatory companies taking advantage and these aggregators being middlemen that created jobs for themselves despite not having that much value and things like that. So we want people to reach out to us and to talk to us, whether it be through the social medias. I'm also at Director Adam Newman on Instagram. Please direct message me if you ever want to talk, truly. Adam.Newman at dreamscapeproductions.com. again, reach out to me. Let's talk about things, whatever it may be. Yeah, obviously we want to be supported, but we want to be supportive of other filmmakers. And it's great that, like you and I get to talk. And now what I get to do is go and look for your movies, and you get to look for mine. And
Right.
hopefully these viewers get to do the same thing. And then if I see your thing, I go, oh man, that was great. I got to find a way to support you, whatever you want to do for your next movie, or support the movie you got right now. So it makes a couple more bucks. And ultimately, we care about the money, but we don't care as much about the money. We just want our things to be seen. We wouldn't make these things unless they were to be seen. That's the one reason we're sharing these things with us, because there's something very broken about us inside, clearly. And it's the only way we know how to communicate with each other. And every time that we make a movie, we're begging somebody, saying, like, please tell me that you see me right now, please. And whenever anybody watches it, you're giving us the validation of being like, I understand you. We're making a connection here. So please reach out to me on any of those platforms and follow us on any of those platforms. That's huge. And we'll do the same. We'll come right back to you, and we'll support you and follow you as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. I have another Ronism. If you want fans, then be a fan. If you don't have someone that you're just not a crazy fan of, and yes, we're all a fan of like Lucas and the big names, but find that indie that is like your equivalent, but the next rung up, and be their champion. Like yell from the rooftops, like this guy Chris Fox, this author I just mentioned. He's an independent author, and the dude's phenomenal. And if you're into writing, you should definitely check him out. We need to be fans of others and not just want people to be fans of ours. Because when I find that you're pushing outwards, then people have a tendency to come back. And you're right also about film as a visual medium. It's not intended to be a script. It's intended to be seen. And the purpose of that is to elicit emotion and move you and spur you into action. Adam, this has been a great conversation, man. I think there's a lot of gold nuggets that I could take from this, that if I was a filmmaker listening to this, that I could get value add. So I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate the viewer and the listeners watching and listening. Please do like and subscribe, leave a comment, let us know you're out there. Sometimes you post these things, you feel like it's going into the void. So just a quick comment does help me know, like, hey, there are people out there that find these things value. But I believe we're good to go to conclude our conversation with Adam. And until next time, keep on swinging, and I'm going to get back to writing. See y'all next time.